They haven't got more. There's not more relationship. There's not more health. There's not more money. There's not more career. There's not a bigger business. So instead of being profitable in all the aspects of their life, they're broke.
Ben, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here, mate.
Mate, the pleasure is mine. I've been looking forward to this for the last couple of months.
Yeah, me too. You do some amazing work. You've had an amazing career, and I mean, you'll tell us more about this, but your focus is really helping people find and I guess do their life's work. I talk a lot about purpose, and I talk a lot about knowing what, it's important to know what we want to do in our life. But how would you define our life's work?
I think if I was to unpack my model to give some context to answer that question, so many of us are always asking, what do I need to do? And we often go external to get the advice, and people are very happy to give us advice, and they say, oh, you should do this. You should leave your partner. You should do maybe a different job. You should earn more money. You should go and travel. You should, and we get should on. And we take on the should, and so we start doing the should, and we end up getting the result often. And then we wake up that next morning and go, hey, I got the result, but shit, that's not really what I want. Or because it's a should, there's an internal challenge, there's a conflict with values. And so even though we keep pushing towards getting the should, we actually never get it. And often that's worse because we end up beating ourselves up that we didn't get the should, whereas somewhere inside ourselves, we're always sabotaging the should. We were never really going to ever get it. That's how most people run their life. They're constantly looking outside for advice rather than going inside and getting should on, doing the should, and ending up not profitable for the time and energy and effort, the money and the sanity that they put into something. They haven't got more. There's not more relationship. There's not more health. There's not more money. There's not more career. There's not a bigger business. So instead of being profitable in all the aspects of their life, they're broke. Step in model number 2, which is the preferred model, and that is get clear on purpose. Get clear on what is it you really, really want. And that's a heartfelt stuff, right? So the do is head. The purpose stuff is heart. You've got to go deep and decide, what do I really want? How do I want my life to turn out? On the day that I die and someone's there at the funeral and they're reading the eulogy, and they say, Ben Carvosso, he was just such a great guy. If I was to sum up his life, he was really all about blank. What's the guy say next? What's the next sentence? Yeah. You need to work out what that sentence is. Yeah. Now the sentence, for example, if you died at 25 is going to be different to the sentence if you died at 45 versus if you died at 75 versus if you die at 105. Because there's a shift in your purpose. It's not a big shift, but there's just this gentle shift in your purpose as you go through life. So getting clear on purposes first, then defining, okay, so if that's my purpose, what are the roles, what are the missions, what are the vehicles that I'm going to use to fulfill the purpose? Well, I'm going to become a dad, and I'm going to become a husband, and I'm going to work on my body, and I'm going to build a business. And these are the different missions that you then use, the vehicles you use to fulfill the purpose, and then defining those missions. How do I want to be as a dad? What kind of business owner do I want to be? What kind of, what sort of mission? How do I want this mission to look? So we've got purpose and missions that then drive plans. The plans you make, the goal setting. So this has now gone from heart to head. Now we've got to actually put this heart stuff and make it. We've got to lay it out. How do we want it to look? What's my goal for the week? What's my goal for the day? What's my goal for the month or the year? So we do some beautiful plans, and then we take those plans, and then we ask ourselves, so what's the character that I need to bring to be a great dad, to fulfill that mission and to have those plans come to fruition? What sort of dad do I want to be? What character do I need to bring? Do I need to bring energy, passion, understanding, leadership? What's the character? What's the personality? So third P, first P, purpose, second P, plans, third P is personality. Those three things then drive productivity, what you need to do. Then you actually head out into the day doing stuff in alignment with purpose and plans and bringing the character that you need to bring, which means the last P, profit, happens. For the time and energy and effort you put in, the next morning you wake up, or week or month or at the end of the year, you wake up and go, wow, for that time, energy, money, and sanity that I put in, my life's better. I'm actually healthier. I've got a better marriage. I'm a better dad. My business has grown. I've impacted community. So I think I'm getting to answering your question. What is your life's work? Your life's work is when you're just clear on purpose and you can wake up and reflect and go, hey, the work I've done matches me, matches who I want to be, matches my sense of identity, matches what that guy's going to say at my eulogy.
Oh, mate, there's a lot to unpack there. I absolutely love that. I want to get into that very first bit. You talked about the shoulds, and I'm going through a bit of a moment in my life where I think, hold on, wait, this success and this life that I'm living, is this the life that I want to live? I'm pretty sure it is, but it's important to check yourself. Wait, am I living out someone else's hopes and dreams here? Is that why sometimes it's really, really challenging? And we mirror everyone in our life, right? We mirror our parents or whoever, brought us up. We mirror our friends. We mirror our colleagues. And I think very quickly we end up sometimes doing things to make that person like us more, or because, that person wanted that, so I think I want that, right? How do you navigate those shoulds, and how do you even understand if what you're working on is a should and not what you actually want in life?
Good. That's really, really good question. I think there's two things that came to mind just when you were chatting there. First of all, be careful of the environment you put yourself in. I've always said environment supports performance. But I was listening to Dan Buettner talk, the guy that, the researcher for Blue Zones. And my understanding is he's about 20 years researching Blue Zones, coined the term. Now, Blue Zones, as you know, are the places where people, more than anywhere else in the world, live to 100 years of age on average. Dan was being interviewed, and I saw this interview, and it was a Rich Roll podcast interview. I can remember it now. And Rich said, so what's the key, Dan? It seems like nutrition and exercise and sense of community are important. And Dan said, absolutely. We know plant-based diet. We know, daily exercise. We know a sense of community is important. There's no doubt. He said, but that's not the most important thing. He said, the most important thing is environment. And he's not talking about, natural environment. He's talking about the where you put yourself doesn't support, it dictates your performance. The reason these people eat the way they do, the way they exercise, the fact that they have community is because of the environment creates that. They live 2 kilometres from the shops, and the only way to get there is to walk because there's no roads to drive your car. And on the way, they pass the other houses, and the houses are set up in a way that the community stop and they talk to each other on the way. And then when they get to the supermarket, there is no freezers and fridges and stuff. There's just fresh fruit and vegetables to eat. So it's always fresh every day. And then they've got to carry it back. And then when they get home, there's no electricity. So they've got to chop the wood, which means they've got to get up early to chop the wood and light the fire so the house is warmed. And to get it, environment supports performance. So the first thing in answer to your question is make sure that you put yourself in an environment with people that are like you, or champion or support you. You need to be in a place where your people are. Find your people, and there's people that aren't our people. They're not good or bad, it's just they're not our people, right? So put yourself in a place where they're your people, So that would be my first comment. And then kind of almost the opposite to that is, and I'm talking to clients more and more about this, is put yourself nowhere. Put yourself in a place where there is no people. When was the last time you were by yourself? Totally by yourself. Now, most of us avoid that like the plague because we either don't like ourselves or we're scared around what might even come up. And so we're either by purpose or just because of life, we never find ourselves by ourselves. And I just reflected on this last Friday. Michelle went and had a girls' weekend in the city. Took my 2 daughters and met up with some friends and had a night in the city on Friday night. My son Logan was staying at his mate's. And Michelle said, "Oh, what are you going to do? Do you want to come into the city?" And for a moment, I thought, yeah, maybe I could come into the city and just stay in the hotel. And I went, no, I'm just going to stay home. I'm going to go and get a massage, and then I'm going to hop into bed early. I'm going to watch an episode of James Bond. And I'm just going to, just hang out. And it was so beautiful, just to have nobody. And once you become a dad and you got kids and you got a partner and stuff, there's just always somebody around. And so in answer to your question, I think 2 things. Put yourself in an environment that supports who you want to be, and also put yourself in an environment where there's nobody, where there's just you alone with your thoughts, where you get to dive deep and really ask yourself, what do I really want?
Yeah, it's that distraction, right? It's been a big theme. I feel like you're just talking to me at the moment. Like, it's just everything you're saying is just like, yep, that's what's going on. Like, there's a massive theme for me around distraction at the moment. Like, everything is a distraction. These damned addictive phones, they're a distraction. The laptop is a distraction. Doing certain things, work, distraction. And I'm trying to minimize distractions in my life, because the more that I minimize these distractions, watching a show on TV or making some big fancy dinner, the more I minimize this stuff, the more time I have to sit with me. And sometimes, most of the time, that's hard, but I feel like it's the only way to do the work, to really improve that inner sense of who you are, your sense of spirituality. The Dalai Lama says spirituality is a mindset that you can use at any time of the day. And by mindset, he talks about integrity and humility and compassion. To be able to do that anytime, in any moment, that's spirituality to him. And for me, it's only through minimizing distraction that I can really connect in with that and actually practice that during the day. It's totally resonate with that. And yeah, I mean, environment, we could do a whole podcast on that. So absolutely love that. So if we're minimizing these shoulds, I still feel for a lot of people, purpose is a difficult thing to grasp. If I'm sitting there and I've got no distractions and I'm meditating or I'm just observing, I'm thinking, yeah, but I still don't have a clue what the hell I'm supposed to be doing here. How do you actually find that in people? Is it just saying, hey, what do you enjoy doing? Do more of that?
I think purpose, I think what a lot of people do is they confuse purpose with, what do I need to do today? Like, purpose is so high up. It's so in the clouds that it almost, it's almost not tangible. But if you were to ask, so what do you mean by that? Specifically, what do you mean? You could start taking it down, what we call chunking down, to something that is more tangible. So, for example, if you asked a priest, what's your life's purpose? He would say, or he could say, to serve God. That's it. Like, it's no more complicated than that. So every morning he wakes up and really he's asking himself, how can I serve God today? How can I serve God today? How can I serve God today? And that drives his behaviour throughout the day. That then drives the plans that he makes for the day, the sermon that he creates, what he dresses in, all those things get driven by that. And so you get that to serve God is really high up, like it's super in the clouds. That's where we need to be with purpose, like high in the clouds. And then, like I said, okay, so if that's my purpose, well, what vehicles am I going to need to fulfill that? So my analogy is why I wrote the book Life CEO. Of course, how to take charge.
Nice, hold it up. I would like that front cover too. It's just, I love those colours. Black, white, gold. Here we go.
Thank you. I did have my picture on the front, but I thought I'd upgrade it and take my picture off. Why don't I hold this up? CEO, right? So think of a company. The CEO sits down, sometimes with a board, right, and goes, hey, what's this company about? What's our purpose? What are we here to do, right? It's a fairly big picture. He then has a whole pile of departments that help fulfill that. He's got a marketing department, a HR department, a sales department, a product development department. He has these missions, these vehicles that he uses to fulfill that purpose. And each of those missions, excuse me, each of those missions, he gives a mission to. He says, hey, sales department, this is our purpose, and here's your role. This is how I see you playing this out. This is your mission, which is different to the HR one. For example, so my personal mission or my business mission is different to my marriage mission. But both of them together are pointing in the same direction to create the overall purpose. So really important there's alignment. I see so many people where their missions are not lining up. I'll do it this way, where their missions are not all lining up and pointing in the same direction, that they've got a mission going this way and a mission going this way. Yeah, two totally different.
They wonder why they can't find balance in their life.
Yeah, and they're pulling against each other. So we want to make sure our missions line up. He wants to make sure that his sales department and product development and HR department are all supporting each other. While they're all doing different things, they're heading in the same direction. And so then the CEO goes, okay, well, that's cool. So now we're clear on purpose. Everyone's clear on their missions. Now let's do some planning. Let's do some quarterly planning. He also sets a culture for the business. How we want to behave. Do we want to be fun? Do we want to be energetic? That's personality. He sets the personality. And then he goes, okay, guys, we got it. Go and be productive. Get some stuff done. And at the end of the year, he does a review and goes, how do we go? Are we broke or profitable? Now, if he's done it well, he's profitable. Every year they make more money. That's kind of the model we need to roll out for our life. We need to think about what's the overall purpose of our company. Where are we taking this thing? And it's really high level.
Could purpose just be to give unconditional love to the world? Could it be something as broad as that?
Yeah. Often when so here's the thing. Depends on how high you want to go with purpose, right? Because, when the priest goes to serve God, if we were to go, and why? Why? Because God is all loving. Yeah. And so it pretty much always ends with love, right at the very top, right? Sometimes that's just too high, and some people come one or two chunks down from that, right? To serve the community, to serve mankind, to make an impact, to make the planet a better place.
Would you still count those as purpose?
Yeah. It doesn't matter what I count. Do they wake up and go, I'm going to make the planet a better place today? Or they could go, you know what? My purpose is to make money. My purpose in life is to make money and build this business. Now, if we were to sit down and go, why? They'd go, well, because I want to make an impact, and I want to make an impact for my family. Why is that important? Well, because I love them. Yeah. And so often we go high up. Love's the answer. It always becomes the answer. But for us, as many of us, we need to take one or two chunks down, so it's just a little bit more tangible. Yeah. And that's okay too. Like I said though, if you were to ask a 25-year-old, what's your purpose? And they were two or three chunks down, it's going to look different to the 45-year-old, to the 75-year-old. Yeah. And that's perfectly okay. So purpose, it has kind of this slight shift every 10 years. It's like a slow flowing river. What does change every 1, 2, 5, maybe even 10 years is missions. Missions change significantly, and they sometimes come and go. Like, for example, when I was 25, I didn't have a father mission. Didn't exist because I didn't have any kids. And then I got to 30 and we had our first child, and all of a sudden, whoosh, there's a mission being slotted in, which is this vehicle of being a father to children and how that helps me fulfill my purpose.
So you're saying the missions sit under the purpose. They're the various different vehicles we have that help us achieve what the purpose is.
Correct. And that's really important to understand too, is that we are not our missions. I am not a father. Father is one of my missions. I am not a husband.
Why is that important? That's really interesting.
Because missions come and go. And sadly, sadly we can lose our kids, and then we question, who am I? If I'm no longer a father and my child died, for example, who am I? Where do I fit in? How do I belong? Or we get divorced and we're no longer a husband. Or, my background is I'm a chiropractor, and, let's say my hands get cut off and I can't be a chiropractor anymore. Well, who am I? So sometimes we attach the mission to us, and it sort of becomes bound to us. Or we hang on to, for example, a career mission, like I'm a chiropractor, and then there's an opportunity, and it's part of our purpose. There's an opportunity to do something different, to not be a chiropractor anymore, like I'm coaching now, right? But if my identity was, I'm a chiropractor, I can't be something else, right? So we've got to be able to let go of missions and allow new ones into our life. Yeah. So
that's a really, really poignant point you make there, because it's so easy to identify what it is that we're kind of doing, and it's so easy to identify with our missions. I'm a business owner. That's what I do. This is what we do in our business. That's who I am, But then if that business ain't there anymore, who are you?
It's a vehicle for the time, and I'm saying go deep. I'm saying completely connect with it. I'm saying, just really thrash that vehicle, like go hard. But recognise that sometimes there's a time to sell it and get another one. Yeah.
And you can own many vehicles at once.
You can own many. In fact, we all own many vehicles at one time. But the vehicles can change as we progress through our journey.
You mentioned there's a bit of a 10-year cycle with purpose. Is that something that you recommend people to review every 10 years? Or are there other important kind of points and crossroads in our life where it's a good time to say, okay, I'm just gonna become more aware of my purpose and perhaps how that's shifted, and readjust my vehicles, my missions accordingly?
Yeah. So what happens is your purpose shifts. Your journey shifts sometimes whether you're aware of it or not. Yeah. So again, I'm going to use purpose like a river, and I talk about it in my book. If you look at the Murray River, and you look at it, it generally goes in this direction, right? But if I was to zoom in, I'd see the Murray River actually does this. It's full of twists and turns. And so our purpose is like that, right? There's a general overall theme. If you were to look at my theme from the time I was born to now at 52 years of age, there's been a general theme to it. But there's been some shifts, right? Now what happens is when the shift comes along, there's a change in direction, which means often a mission needs to change, who we be needs to change. Some part of our life has to change. The challenge is we want to hang on to the old and we want the new, but you can't have this and have this. So crisis comes from the word Greek to sieve out. So when we get to the turn, we don't want to take the turn. We want to keep going straight, because going straight it feels like it's going to be easier. I was doing some triathlons. I missed out in the last year, but have you done a triathlon before?
No, I've done a couple of half marathons.
Right, so you've seen kind of how the triathlon, the water start, right? A heap of guys lined up on the beach, siren goes, everyone jumps in the water, and you usually swim out to a buoy, turn right, swim out to the next buoy, turn right, and then swim back to the beach. Well, mate, you get in the water, it's crazy when you first get in, and then you kind of get into your rhythm, and you're swimming in a straight line, and everyone's kind of nicely spread out, and, everyone's stopped kicking each other, etc. But it comes to a point where you've got to take the turn, right? And as you take the turn, it gets ugly. The pack comes back together to take the turn. Everyone's punching and kicking each other. You lose your rhythm. You swallow water. It's ugly. But to do the course, to stay on course, you got to take the turn. And life purpose is like that. It'd be easy just to keep going perfectly straight all the time, but our purpose has a shift. We've got to sometimes take the turn, and it's ugly to take the turn, particularly if we're trying to hang on to keeping on the old direction as well as take the new direction. You can't do both. And that's when this sort of crisis comes up where people struggle. There's this battle, there's this awkwardness, it gets ugly. So just recognising when again, you can only do that when there's silence, when you can actually just be with you, that in you go, you know what, that's really served me well. But for the next chapter, it's not going to serve me. I've got to let that go. I've got to let that person go. I've got to let that career go. I've got to let that thing go. I've got to let that way of thinking go, so that I can become the new version. Yeah. So a shift in purpose is sometimes a bit ugly. It can be awkward.
Yeah, it can be confronting. Really, really quite scary. Do you have some sort of practice to help one connect with their purpose? For them, sometimes I'll sit down and I like thinking about purpose because I like that big thinking stuff, and every now and then I'll just sit down and I'll just kind of, I guess, just write down a few things that are going on and just think, okay, do I need to shift my direction at all? Like you said, is there some thinking I need to let go of? Maybe some beliefs I need to change? Am I still heading in that right direction? Is that the direction I want to be going? And I do this probably every couple months, maybe every 2-3 months. Just one Sunday morning, I'll have nothing on. Cool. I'm just going to go and do this. And, but I find sometimes it's like, okay, well, is this very moment going to define the next 5 years? Have I considered everything? Wait, what if I've forgotten about something that's really important? It's just not coming up right now, So how do you kind of go about better defining that to then be able to create those missions? Because I imagine from my experience, you can't do it in an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah, I think we need to create more critical thinking time so that muscle, we start building that muscle. We start, getting used to sitting quietly to ourselves and having our brain shift gears and move into the critical thinking gear of going deep and thinking bigger picture. I think that's a muscle that we need to build. Keith Cunningham, you've heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Yeah. So Rich Dad is Keith Cunningham. He's actually a real guy. And he wrote a book where he talks about this called The Road Less Stupid. Kind of an answer to your question, right? Oh, if I take that road, is that the stupid one? Have I really thought it through, right? So he's talking about take the road less stupid, right? We all take some stupid roads sometimes, right? But the less stupid one. And his solution to that is pretty simple. Sit down with a blank piece of paper and a pen regularly by yourself. Just take some notes. Just do some scribbling, Don't sit there with an agenda. This is not a goal setting session. This is not a business planning session. This is not for you to sit down and write out your health goals and design up your training program. This is just an hour with a blank sheet of paper and we'll just let the thoughts go. Start writing whatever kind of comes to mind. This is again that silence, that quiet time to yourself. So I think it's something we need to do more regularly. And it can be little things like I'll often go to a cafe, leave for work a bit earlier, drop into a cafe, sit with a coffee and my diary and a pen and just start making some notes, letting the stuff that's kind of that's underneath the surface of all the little bits and pieces that need to be done for the day, that stuff that's way down deep, let some of that brew to the surface, bubble up, and just kind of make some notes on that. And that sometimes I'll do a daily practice of that for a week or two. It'll just be my regular thing to head off to the coffee shop first thing in the morning and sit there with a pen and just kind of let some of those thoughts come up. I do a blog every week called Three Things Thursday, and this week's Three Things Thursday, I literally took a picture of that. So I went to the local cafe. I took a picture of just my laptop, and it was, hey, sometimes we need, as we talked about earlier, sometimes you need to change environment, because the thinking that you've had up until now has produced the result that you've currently got. Where you are right now, living under the chair and the mic and all that sort of stuff, all that's there because of the thinking right up to this very minute. If you want to make a shift, you want to make a change, you're going to have to think differently. We know environment helps you think differently. So getting out of the normal routine, driving a different way to work, because we do a lot of thinking in the car, right? But we go the same path, so the same thoughts come up. Go a different way, go the longer way, go the shorter way, go by the beach. It'll bring up different thinking. Park in a different car park, go to a different place for lunch, take yourself out to a restaurant. One of my things every year is I find a really nice place to go and have lunch by myself. So I do my planning for the future year, kind of some big thinking about where I want the year to go. And I'll do that sometime in December, because I know that once, Christmas hits and New Year's, there's, it just gets busy in my world, kids and family and summer. And so in December, I take myself off for a day, sit in a beautiful cafe, have an amazing waiter look after me, and just white tablecloths and a nice glass of wine, and I'll sit there and just let it all vomit out. Yeah. So it's just a muscle I think we need to build.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, how often are people sitting down with a piece of paper and thinking about where they want their life to go? I imagine some people have never done that. And maybe some people like myself, I thought I was doing it too much, doing it once every couple months. I thought, Alex, you just do this all the time. Maybe I should be doing it more. Maybe I should be doing it once a week and just seeing what comes out. And maybe every session doesn't need to be super grandiose, or, maybe sometimes not much good comes out. But like you said, I think it's the muscle, which is really cool. We kind of covered purpose. We talked, you mentioned something which I really liked, coming from the heart to the head. And I took that as, when we think about purpose and we think about what we want to do or not what we want to do, think about our purpose in life, that comes from the heart, and getting into our heart space to be able to do that, I imagine will glean better insights into what we want to be doing. How do we then transition from our heart to our head? And is that when we start to put the missions and the vehicles in place to achieve the purpose?
Yeah, so purpose really high. Missions, the different vehicles we're going to use, we chunk down. It's a good chunk down, right? Because the mission, we want to have some again, it's got a higher level to the mission, but then so the way I work it out is, the way I do it is I have them put a mission statement, so that each of those missions has a statement, like a purpose statement, and then we follow by this sentence: therefore I will, and I will be home for dinner so that I can be with my family. Therefore I will, for example, under health mission, therefore I will seek to set goals to exercise 5 times a week, or I might set a goal to exercise once. But there's this kind of intention statements that we're putting around this mission of kind of how we're going to behave, right? So there's a chunk down from that, but still big picture. It's not super defined. That's all sort of really hearty-felt stuff, but you can see it starting plans. This is where we literally go, okay, so what are the things that I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to contact this person. I'm going to have to send this email. I'm going to have to write this book. I'm going to have to, there's some real detail, head stuff, planning. Back to heart again when we do personality, then back to head again when we go back to the stuff that we need to physically do. And each of those steps are important. And the planning stuff, these are almost like filters along the journey. The catch is that I find that there seems to be two camps. I find there's a lot of people that are real doers. They're just doing all the time, but have never done the critical thinking to go, I'm actually doing the right thing. Is this really on purpose? And then there's people on the other side that do the big purpose statement. They'll draw up incredible plans. They'll sit and think about who they need to be, but nothing ever gets done. Because those first three steps, purpose, planning, and personality, change. But at some point, you've got to get out of the chair and actually do stuff. So I'm not knocking the doing. We've got to do stuff, but we've got to make sure that the doing is supported by purpose, plans, and personality.
Yeah, I love that. Just having that balance between the two, right? I'm just going to turn my video off just because the internet connection is struggling a little bit, but I'm still here. I'm still recording my video. We'll see if that helps a little bit. So then we get into, am I following this right? Then once we've kind of sorted out those missions and the therefore I wills, are we then into character or personality, sorry?
No, we're going to make sure we've got some plans. We need to put some plans in place. These are dated things. These are tangible. I have something called the track method of, and so I'll quickly unpack that for you. Track T stands for, it's got to be tangible. This is where we go from really big picture, high level stuff to, okay, so what's the tangible outcome? What's the plan? What is this thing at the end of a week or month or trimester or year? What's it actually going to look like? It needs to be tangible. So that's the T in track. The R stands for, is it real? Like real? Like, is this, like, for example, if I set a goal to be an astronaut, not real. I'm not going to be an astronaut, not now at 52 without any history of flying, right? So let's make sure it's real. So you set yourself up for success, right? So often we set, goals, we make plans, and sometimes they're not driven by purpose, and we're just setting ourselves up for failure, right? And that's not good for us. We beat ourselves up, it lowers our self-worth. So make sure it's real. Make sure that also that you can be 100% responsible for this plan. So often we set goals, we put plans together that rely on so many things outside of our control that, again, we potentially set ourselves up for success. For example, if I said, my plan is for my wife, my goal is for my wife to be a redhead. Well, I can have an intention around that. We could have some conversations around that, but I can't make that a goal. I can't make a clear plan around that because at the end of the day, that's outside of my control. I can't be responsible for that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So T for make sure it's tangible. R, make sure it's real and that you can be 100% responsible. Again, let's set you up for success. Now, the A and the C in track, the A stands for action account. That's C, that is constructive. So what do I mean by that? Often we set goals that are really tangible, like I want to save $1,000 by the end of the month. Great, it's tangible, it's got a date to it, it's real, yep. Can I be responsible for that? Yep. But the action account that's constructive takes this head thing, $1,000 by the end of the month, all very heady, and makes it a heart thing because we're driven by heart. So therefore we write an action account. We write, wow, it's amazing. I've come to the end of the month and I'm looking in my bank account and there is $1,000. Can't believe I've managed to do it. I'm so excited to see that one and the zero and the zero and the zero. But what I'm more excited about is the cool blank that I'm going to buy with that, because I know that's going to bring me so much happiness and help me connect better with the family, and we're going to have some great holidays with using the blank thing and blah, blah, blah. You get this action account, like you're talking it through as if it's happened. It's full of visual pictures and you're hearing sounds and, there's this kinesthetic, there's this feeling component to it. So really important when we put plans together that we really add this heartfelt stuff, yeah? So T, tangible, and time. R, real and 100% accountable, 100% responsible. The action, A for action, C is that it's constructive too, right? So we don't want to write an action account as, thank God I got that $1,000 saved. I think I was going to be able to do it. I know it's not enough money, but, at least it's a start. Not really that constructive, right? And then the K is for kind. Again, let's just check in. Let's make sure this is really what you want, that this is kind to you. And so, again, I have a strategy around how we do that. We do a values check-in. I do a little quadrant exercise where we just we do some work around let's really unpack this thing. So we want to get the goal set and then do a last minute just before we put the rubber stamp and post it and stick it up on our wall and tell our friends about it. Let's really just make sure this is what we want. So the track method of planning. So that's next step. Do some plans, and there's a process to that. This is a logic step. This is a head thing. There's meant to be some just tangible logic head stuff to doing some planning.
I love that. And being kind, a bit like being kind to ourselves, just making sure it feels good. And maybe even like through this goal, are we being kind to other people whilst we do it, whilst we achieve it, through the action of it? Are we actually looking out for all the other humans that we're going to be in contact with during it?
Yes. Yeah. And is there a value lurking in there too? Again, whilst so much of us wants this plan to happen, is there a little value in there or a belief that we've got that's secretly going to sabotage it and stop it from happening? I know I set a goal to get a Ducati motorbike, and I think maybe someday I still will. It'll probably just sit on the veranda for display purposes only, though. But so I did the exercise, got this, the whole plan, and this Ducati motorbike, and then I did the K bit. And what came up for me in one of the quadrant exercises is one of the questions that I ask is, what would happen what wouldn't happen if you didn't get it? So we do a would and did exercise. What would happen if you did? What would happen if you didn't? What wouldn't happen if you did? What wouldn't happen if you didn't?
Yeah.
Anyway, what wouldn't happen if I didn't? I wouldn't die. I wouldn't kill myself. So if I didn't get it, I wouldn't kill myself. Because there's a potential for that. And that came up. I went, oh, hang on. Because we've got a scooter at home, right? Doesn't go quick. It's not sexy, so I just take it, wander up to the village, grab the papers in the morning, wander back. Ducati motorbike?
You'll be in a tree.
I'm not going to get the papers, right? And so that came up for me, and I went, I'm not doing the goal. So threw it out. So the K is important.
I love that. And there's some accountability there to yourself through doing that process, whereby you've really assessed everything and, that doesn't feel right. And I'm going to put my ego aside because I really want that Panigale 899 in red, right? Single side swing arm on the rear tire. Like I want that, but I'm going to put that aside because I don't want to come off the road, going around a corner, trying to dodge a stick, run into a tree and break both my legs. And then I can't support my family very well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And then we're on to personality.
Personality, character, the ethos, the culture. So many people again ask me, what do I need to do? And I say, well, first of all, let's talk about who you need to be. What character do you need to bring? I run something called a Stride Boardroom where every Wednesday a group of my clients come together and we run a board, and I'll present for a half an hour. You presented to the board, right? I'll talk for half an hour on some topic, and then we'll break into what's your challenge. So they bring a challenge for the week. And most importantly, they've got to bring a quality question. Yeah. So, I'm just, I want to lose weight, right? And one of the guys said, so my question to the crew is, how do I do that? How do I lose weight? Well, mate, look, good question, great question, but not a quality question. It's not a quality question. What's the real question that you're wanting to ask? Because you know how to lose weight, dude. Stop eating. Mate, you'll lose weight. Mate, you know that too, right?
Yeah.
It's simple, right? You just stop eating. There's nothing fancy to it. Eat less. You will lose weight, no matter what everyone says, right? Less calories, you're going to lose weight. I said, what's the real question? And we worked out the real question was, how do I remain consistent? How do I do what I say I'm going to do? How do I be trusted? That's the real question. It was a question around character, not a question around what he needs to do. So personality is for you to question, what's the character that I need to bring to this task? How do I need to turn up? Do I need to be courageous? Do I need to be quiet? Do I need to be kind? Do I need to be... and we might go, well, we've got to be all those things. Well, yeah, but some tasks require more of one character than the other. Yeah? So personality is really important.
Yeah, it's how we go about in the world, right? I don't know who the quote is, but it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And is that Simon Sinek? I don't know. Anyway, I mean, it's just so true, no matter what happens in life, we can go about it in a certain way. For example, I can only use myself as a good example here, but my dad went into a home recently, Alzheimer's, and I probably could have grieved more. I mean, there's still a bit of a grieving process happening because with Alzheimer's, it's kind of like they're not alive anymore, but they are, and it's a challenge. And but the way I have been going about that is really probably sometimes trying too hard to see the gift in that, right? The constant reminder of looking after myself because Dad never did that, and for me, that's I right from when it started to happen, I was like, okay, well, there's something good coming out of this and I don't know what it is. But that seems to be the theme for me, that it's a really, really stark reminder to look after myself, and it just resonates with my whole kind of story over the last decade because I've grown up in this business when it started and we're always seeing sick people. And so again, the story there is, okay, cool. I want to look after myself because I don't want to end up like that. And so I think, there's lots of ways to go about tragedy or just go about things that perhaps don't go well, things that do go well, right? How do we celebrate the wins? Do we go and, maybe the goal was to save $10,000 or $1,000, like you said. Do we go and blow a quarter of it on a bottle of Dom, or do we just, give ourselves a nice pat on the back and say, well done, and maybe share that little win with your friends and your family? So I think that character is, I guess it's really in line with our values, or perhaps it's a product of our values and what are the things that we really go forth in life, embodying. Is it integrity? Is it compassion? Is it really understanding that perhaps that person didn't mean that thing and that's okay, even though it hurt in the moment, that's all right. Give them some love. Or is it not having those values and turning around and telling that person that you despise them and go down to their level? I think it's critical, but also I imagine gets bred out of life experience too, right? Coming back to what you said, when you're 25, your character and your personality is different probably to when you're 55, I would imagine.
I think there's that, but also importantly, the character I am with you right now is different to the guy that when I do my workout tomorrow at 7 a.m. I fire up, I get cheeky with the trainer and the other guy I train with. We take the piss. I get angry. I channel anger before I lift when I'm doing bench press. There's a different character I need to bring to nail the workout tomorrow. There's a different character when I climb into bed with my wife. There's a different character when I, at home hanging out with the kids. There's a different character when I'm with my patients. There's a different character when I'm with my clients. We need to recognise, people often say, I just want to be me. Well, you can be anyone you want. Yeah. And importantly, I think you need to be different people so that you can nail the different situations. It's a bit like, the example I give is we've got a Range Rover, and a lot of four-wheel drives have got them. They've got a little, like a dial in the middle, right? And when you start the car, it's in road mode. That's the default setting, right? And so we all have a bit of a default setting. And the Land Rover, by the way, is always going to be a Land Rover. I can turn that dial, though, to snow mode. And the whole character of the car changes. It still looks the same. It's still a Land Rover, but now the suspension's changed, the transmission, the gearbox, the acceleration, the whole car has changed so it can perform better in the snow. Still the same car, but the character has changed. I can turn it to rock mode, mud mode, hill descent mode. And again, the whole character of the car changes so it can perform better. We need to recognise that we have one of those dials and that I've now set it on podcast mode. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock, it'll be set on gym mode. Yeah. And so I'll bring the best version of me for that situation.
I like that. Do you think, however, still it all kind of falls under Range Rover, right? It still falls under Ben Carvosso.
Yes.
Right? And I imagine that you've got a set of values that are kind of guiding all of that, right? I mean, you're in gym, you're taking the piss, you're having some fun, you're channeling some anger, you're bench pressing probably double my weight, but you still have kindness, and you still have, I guess, a respect, and you still have an understanding of the world in a way which, allows you to be you, right?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Definitely. It's like the Landy will always be a Landy. It'll never be a Ferrari. So, but there are Ferraris out there as well. Yeah, and Ferraris bring a character, and they can change and shift a little bit. There's settings in the Ferrari as well. There's race mode and comfort mode, but again, it's always going to be a Ferrari. So I agree with you 100%. I guess the difference is that, for example, if we use a Land Rover, it's got a road mode suspension height, which is like this high, but when I'm in, rock and rut mode, the suspension's this high. It doesn't bring this height of suspension. It stays at this level. So, for example, if it was kindness, in the gym tomorrow, I don't bring kindness. Like, that's not the setting that I bring. Mm-hmm. I bring the other versions of me that are going to give me the best outcome. And then I'll finish and I'll catch up with my mate Brad, and we'll go and have a coffee at the local coffee place, and we'll sit, and I'll bring kindness. Because I'm not in gym mode anymore. I was taking the piss 15 minutes ago with him, and now we're sitting and we're talking about relationships and, a whole range of other stuff where I bring a whole different character. Does that
what would the downside be to someone who brings the same character everywhere?
Yeah, pain. That's the downside. Pain. There is, I think it brings, I can't think of any other word except for failure. Only though, if you change environments, right? So if you just do the same thing and don't shift environments, then you could probably be in the same setting. But I talk about flexibility, narrow-minded versus broad-minded. We know that the most flexible person in any system will always win. Yeah, not win by beating someone, but just win at life. They'll be productive, they'll be profitable. And so you want to have a broad range to you. You want to have flexibility to you, not be narrow, not have only this much choice, this much different, this much character and settings. We want to have this much character that you could bring. Yeah, because you know what? There is nothing wrong with anger. If I'm walking down a dark alley and with my family and someone steps out, I need to bring anger. Yeah, I need to fire up. I need to go to war. We've become a society that says, don't do anger, don't raise your voice, don't scream and shout. We need to be able to bring that. We need to be able to tap that resourcefully, just like we need to be able to tap quietness and kindness and, all those other resources as well. And so having the flexibility to bring all those different characters, I think, is important.
Mm. Yeah, certainly in terms of different environment, if you're in a work environment, or hey, maybe you're pitching to Apple, for example, right? You're pitching something to them. Like you want to bring a different character in that meeting to, if you're bending over on your knee and asking your partner to marry you, right?
100%. Yeah. But you're still you.
Go on.
But you're still you. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there's another way to handle that burglar in the dark alley other than being angry at him.
Possible too.
I wonder, maybe if you give him a hug and say you are loved, maybe he'll probably just stab you anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe anger's required. Hopefully no one has to endure that.
Sure.
You talk about profitability, and I like it in the sense that it's not just dollars, right? So what is profitability to you when we're doing our life's work? How do we know we're profitable?
So profitable for me, a great example is this. I can already feel the profit. We've been chatting for an hour. For the hour that I've spent with you, the time and the energy that I put into this, I am better. I'm happier. I've got more energy. I've got more than when I started. And I put some energy into this podcast, but I've actually got more at the end. Yeah, that's profit. You know, for the love that you give your partner, you feel more loved at the end than you did at the beginning. That's profit. For the time and the money that we put into our businesses and the energy and the sanity that we put into our businesses, is the business bigger and better at the end of the week. And when I say the business, I mean the bank account, I mean the team, I mean the culture, I mean the clients. Is it all better for the time and money and energy and sanity? That's profit.
I think that comes back to knowing what our purpose is, doesn't it? Because, man, sometimes you put energy into something and afterwards you're just like, I got no energy now, right? Whereas right now we're riffing, having a great conversation, and you're feeling energized. I'm just sitting here with a big smile on my face, right? I'm going to leave this and I'm going to go, hell yeah, that was a good conversation, you know, because we're doing things in line with your purpose, I imagine, in line with mine, you know.
100%.
For me, it's helping people and helping people shift their mind and their health in a way so they can live a better quality life, look better, feel better, you know. However, if we don't have that, we won't have profitability, it sounds like.
Yeah, for the time and energy and effort, it's neutral, we're zero, or there's less and we end up broke. And there's lots of people waking up at the end of a day or week or month or year and going, ugh, I've had it. I'm exhausted. You know, for the time and effort I put into this relationship, it's just worse. And so that's when we potentially, again, that crisis comes up. It might be a time to shift. It might be time to recognise that your purpose has shifted. The mission needs to change. That you maybe need to do different planning. Maybe there's a character component there that needs to be dealt with. And so that when you start being productive, when you start actually doing some stuff, that you start becoming profitable again. Maybe it's time to start saying no to the podcasts, or start saying yes to podcasts. Do you know, maybe there's a shift there, and so that you can do what you do, deploy your assets. I'm saying it again: time and money, energy and sanity. Deploy those assets, and as a result, have more of them.
And it's about giving to, like you said, when you give love to your partner, you feel more love afterwards, right? Giving to the right things, not giving to a bad cause, you know, something that isn't going to serve your purpose. What do you say to someone who is absolutely just kicking ass in life? They're profitable in many areas. They're doing well. Do they still need to do this work?
Yeah, look, we all get stuck. We're human, right? We go on a hero's journey. We're cycling. You're familiar with the hero's journey, and probably much of your audience is familiar with that hero's journey. We're at home, life's good, life's great, it's comfortable, there's certainty, it's a great place, right? But eventually, part of us, there's this call to adventure. There's this call to kind of grow our relationship, or to grow our bank, or to grow our health, and so we go, whilst I love home, I'm gonna leave home. I'm going to leave and set off on this adventure. We head out on the venture, and as always happens with the hero's journey, the further we leave from home, the more sometimes uncomfortable it gets, to a point that we get to the point where it gets a little too uncomfortable, and we start to slow down. We start to go, "Ooh, do I really want to take the next step?" And we pause for a second. It's what I call getting stuck. We all get stuck. We all get to a point where we question, am I worthy? Have I got what it takes? Can I do this thing? Now, successful people get to that point, or versus unsuccessful. Unsuccessful get to that point, and they try and do it alone. And often the answer when they ask those questions, am I worthy, can I do it, is, no, look, I think I'll go home. And they turn around and they go home again. And the journey ends. And they're the same person. They left home, they headed out, but they never really crossed the threshold. The successful person gets to the edge, balks for a second and goes, hang on, I want to move forward, but I can feel like there's something holding me back there. And they call a mate, or they get a coach, or they watch a YouTube clip, or they buy a book, or they attend a seminar. They get a resource. They get a little bit of magic. They get the wizard. They get the Obi-Wan Kenobi. They get the Gandalf the Grey. And they get some sort of resource that helps them shift over the threshold, take that step. And of course, as we know, it's all good once you get in. Once we cross the threshold, we go, I'm glad I took the step, right? But sometimes we need someone to take our hand for us and show us that it's possible, believe in us, champion us. And so we do, and we step over and we go through the journey, we grow, and then we go back home again. We go back to the village, we go back to our house, and we go, wow, I'm bigger, I'm better, I'm stronger, I'm faster. I've grown, and here's what I learnt. And we bring it back to our community. And so not only do we grow, but we help others grow around us, or we become the champion for the person that one day heads off on the same adventure we were on. We say, hey man, I've been there, I've done it. Here, let me hold your hand. Let's do this together, And so we're all going on that journey, and someone who seems to have it all, who's kicking goals, but to kick a goal, you've got to have a goal, and the goal is something you don't have. So they're constantly moving forward, getting a bit stuck, getting some resources and stepping over the line. That answers the question.
Yeah, that's bang on. I love that. I mean, it's constant, right? Constantly leaving home, getting to that point, finding some inspiration, some guidance, and then we keep on moving. Or sometimes we get to that point, we go back home, and then we go and get to that point again, and we go back home and then get to that point again, and we say, all right, I'm doing something different this time. Yeah. And then we move through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
A surfboarding analogy is coming to mind, but we won't go there. To wrap up, Ben, this has been awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to add as part of this conversation? Because I think we've covered some amazing things, and I hope that there's a bit of a framework there actually for people to think a bit more openly about what it is they're doing in the world, why they're doing it, and maybe take some action. Maybe do something a bit out of the box, go away from our home, go on a bit of an adventure, and God forbid, maybe even start to do some things that we really love in life. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
And I think on your point just at the end there around action, sometimes we don't know what we need to do, right? And sometimes we don't really know what we need to do until we take the step and we realise, wrong step, and we go back. So my analogy around this is, you go shopping, right? And I love Zara. A lot of the time Zara fits me, right? And sometimes I'll go into Zara and I go, that's cool. I like those jeans, right? And I'll get those jeans, and I'll get a couple of those tops, and I'll get that pair of pants, and then I'll go into the change room and I'll go and put them on and go, oh shit, they don't fit. Wow, they're way too small. And I'll take them back off. They looked good on the shelf, but I didn't really know what they were going to be like until I tried them on, right? And so Many of us have these ideas, these thoughts around what we might like to do. They're on the shelf still. What I'd ask your listeners at the end right now, go and try one of them on. Go and try it on. You can take it off if it doesn't fit, right? But go and try it on. And that is, take some action. It doesn't need to be massive. I'm not saying go out and buy a car. I'm not saying go and put a deposit down on a house. I'm not saying go and marry that girl right now. But what would be the next step? What could you try on? What little thing could you do today, by the way, not tomorrow, in fact, not tonight, like in the next hour? Is it just a message you could send someone? Is it a phone call? Is it a quick email you could send? Is it just, walk around to the health food store and buy the, salad in a bowl rather than buy the bun, right? Is there something you could just do right now and try on that different thing? That's what I'd like to leave your listeners with. Take action. Don't worry whether it's perfect or not. Just try it on. Take the first step, try that on. Oh, that felt quite good. I'll send another email. Oh, that felt good too. I'll give them a call. Oh, that feels really good. Start trying stuff on.
Love that. Take some action, baby. Let's do it. To finish up, Ben, what's the sweatiest you've ever been?
Oh, mate. That's a question that gives me palpitations. It gives me palpitations thinking about it. So my son, for our kids in year 11, or is it year 10? Could be year 11, could be year 10. We take them away for a week. So Michelle took the two girls for a week each, and Logan, I got to take Logan for a week, and I took him to Thailand to a fight camp. He was doing some MMA at the time. And I said, mate, let's go to Thailand and do a fight camp. Thailand is famous for its fight camps. And to make sure it worked out with school, we went in the middle of summer. It was 40 degrees. And we're in this fight camp. And, mate, I was sweating at like 6 a.m. in the morning, training at 7. And they're hardcore over there in Thailand. These fight camps are hardcore. And, mate, my heart was racing. I've never seen my heart race. I've never sweated so much. I just sweated for 2 or 3 hours, went back to the room and just laid down in the cold over lunch, and then it started again at 2 o'clock. I was dripping.
Would have been 100% humidity as well.
It was 100%. It was crazy. And so it was a week of it.
And I bet that the teachers were probably just had a mild glistening of sweat, yes. Probably not even dripping.
Yeah, they weren't even dripping.
Love that, dude. Hey, if people want to learn more about you, get in touch with you, where can they find you?
You can find me all over the place. I mean, if you put Ben Carvosso in, I will turn up. Life CEO, the book, it's a great place to start. My feedback I get from people that know me that have read the book, they go, mate, it's just like we're having a conversation. It's like I'm talking to you. And that's how I wrote it. I wanted to be a conversation like you and I have had. And it's full of knowledge and asking you to take action. So it's more like a coaching journal, book, experience than it is just kind of reading a book. And I break it into tiny little chunks. So again, you can just try it on. You don't have to fully commit deep down. It's just like, just try it. Try this bit on. Try this bit on. That's a great place to start, lifeceo.com. And if they go to lifeceo.com, it'll take them to my webpage and they can get the book. Amazon, all the good booksellers have got it. That's a great place to start. Go and just check out my website, drbencarvosso.com.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Mate, thank you.